Alright guys, for today's lesson we're going to continue our discussion on how do we divide complex numbers, but we're going to be looking at more complex ones that involve something called a conjugate. Now, conjugate is a very interesting term, vocabulary word. Like say for example you have the imaginary number 4 plus 3i, its conjugate would be 3 minus 4i. You just change the sign of the imaginary part. So like if you have 2 minus 4i, the conjugate would be 2 plus 4i. If you have negative 5 plus 7i, the conjugate would be negative 5 minus 7i. Or if you have like negative 10 minus 11i, the conjugate would be negative 10 plus 11i. So the conjugate is just change the imaginary term sign. Alright, so let's say that I give you this problem right here, 2 over 2 minus 5i. Again, you don't want the imaginary unit in the denominator, but unfortunately this is not just a singular I, this is actually a complex number that has a real part and an imaginary part. So what we're going to do is, we're going to multiply by its conjugate. The conjugate of 2 minus 5i is 2 plus 5i. So multiply top and bottom by 2 plus 5i. In the numerator we're going to distribute, so I'm going to get 4 plus 10i. In the denominator we're going to have to FOIL. Now what's interesting though guys is that when you FOIL, and this is only when it's a conjugate, but when you FOIL a conjugate, you don't have to worry about the O and the I, because the O and the I cancel each other out. So we're just going to do first and last. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then negative 5i times positive 5i is negative 25i squared. That only works when it's a conjugate. Now, remember, I squared is negative 1, so I'm going to have 4 minus 25 times a negative 1, which would be 4 plus 10i over 4 plus 25. 4 plus 25 is 29. And so that gives me 4 plus 10i over 29, which you could break apart and rewrite as 4 over 29 plus 10 over 29i. But either one of those answers would be acceptable. Alright, for the second one, again, multiply by its conjugate. So 4 plus 3i, 4 plus 3i. I'm going to distribute in the numerator, and that'll give me 12 plus 9i. In the denominator, I just do first and last, so that'll give me 16 minus 9i squared. Remember that the I squared is negative 1, so that'll be 12 plus 9i over 16 plus 9, and then that'll be 12 plus 9i over 25, and you could leave it like that, or break it apart, and that'll be 12 over 25 plus 9 over 25i. Alright, if we move on, here are a little bit more complex ones. I'm just going to arrow down and do the bottom one. Let me go back to it right here. Okay, I'm just going to go back and do just the bottom one since they're both the same. So if you take a look at this one, again, imaginary unit in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by the conjugate. So conjugate would be 4 plus 3i. But unfortunately in the numerator I can't distribute because it's a binomial times a binomial, so I've actually got to do FOIL on this, and it's not conjugate, so I've got to do the whole thing. So 6 times 4, 24. 6 times 3i, 18i. 2i times 4, 8i. 2i times 3i, 6i squared. In the denominator, though, they are conjugate, so I just have to do first and last, so that would be 16 minus 9i squared. I'm going to look for any like terms. In the numerator, I see 18i plus 8i, so that would give me 26i. And then I also notice that I have an I squared, which is negative 1. So I'm going to replace those, and that will give me 24 plus 26i minus 6 over 16 plus 9. In the numerator, that will give me 24 minus 6 will be 18, plus 26i over 16 plus 9, 25. You could leave it like that or break it apart into 18 over 25 plus 26 over 25i. But either one of those would be acceptable. Alright, that's it for today's lesson, and then we'll continue on later.